all this fine day. I hope that if you're here, you subscribe to this channel if you're not already, and you check out everything that is down below. Fun little tidbits from me and any resources that might be relevant. And a like button if you so desire. Go ahead, check them out. Now, I've discussed before an assumption, and I think just a general, lack of a better term, stereotype that I feel like is placed upon autistic people, and that is being selfish. I already talked about that. And on that same note, the question then comes into play as an autistic person living in community with other people, since that is often the case. That is the whole humans are all social creatures type of realm. You know, we're whether we want it or not, we exist in this world with other people. So you can't really avoid them. And in many cases, you are in direct community, which I'm all for community. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate having a plethora of different perspectives, different people, different just experiences that I think having interdependence in that sort of way, in a healthy sort of way, is really good, and it's kind of like the ultimate goal here, a utopia, I guess, that is rarely the case. But I also think that when you bring into the conversation autism and neurodiversity in general, that means that you might be uplifting different things in a community that might not otherwise go noticed. And I see it directly relating to selfishness, in that I see with community that a mentality too often of all for one, one for all type of thing, where you almost lose a sense of self within the realm of a community, and that losing that like identity of self and that self focus in any regard is lower on the tier than thinking of everyone else all the time. Now, if you're autistic, or you've been here long enough to kind of get a little semblance of what this might mean for us autistic folks, it's not realistic, and in many cases is really toxic. That regardless if you're autistic or not, I think that having a very high priority on always thinking of the fact that everyone else has needs around you, and you know, it's not just you in the world, so stop thinking about yourself. You're so selfish, and just kind of different ways that turn into, whether it's conscious or not, it can turn into a guilt trip. And as an autistic person, if you hear often enough, and it's, I guess, just part of the persona that autism has in the general public's eye, that it's all about me, and needing different things, and just feeling like a nuisance to everyone else, especially if you're the only one in a community, in a setting that is neurodiverse. And I can only speak for myself, but I can imagine that this applies to really any sort of like marginalized or anything that goes counter to the dominant culture is probably made to feel that way. And to me, which again, a common stereotype that autistic people don't have empathy whatsoever, you know, just like talking robots. Such messages that just push aside those individual needs and don't see them above just the group, the collective, that is not empathy at all. That is not compassion. Compassion is actually honoring individuals for who they are, because they are not all the same. And everyone has a right to be themselves and to have a self. And that deserves, if needed, accommodations. It deserves to not be silenced, and it deserves to not be ostracized, that I think can happen a lot of potentially feeling like you're the odd man out, and you might feel like you are being irrational or just going too far in cases where you have every right to express yourself, to express what you need, and to be yourself. And a community should be a collective of selves that don't lose their own identities and instead celebrate them. And I mean, simply acknowledge them is great, but it's just a very common situation that is likely to happen, even thinking grand scheme of just our kind of us versus them type of mentality of what is seen in politics and what's seen in culture. I mean, we're getting really big here, but to take it down a couple of notches, you know, this is a very common pattern, and I think if you experience that on the individual level, it can be harder to kind of see that it is so common, and that it is one of the key reasons why we continue to perpetuate the stereotypes and the biases around, I mean, come on, let's just bring ableism into the room, because that's exactly what it is. It's just a tactic that spins compassion into just guilt and into questioning yourself and questioning who you are, when that's not community. If it is a community, then it's not supporting you, and you either need to just not be there to maybe take a step back, but maybe to also, if it's within your means, if it's within your energy, to push the envelope, you know, of what community really means. And I hope that we continue exploring that in all aspects of life, but, you know, we keep it towards more neurodiversity in this neck of the woods. And if you have any more thoughts about that, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. And I'm sure Olive would too as she moseys around. But thank you so much for being here, taking the time to listen to me ramble. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all next time.